Now, good morning, everyone, and welcome to this event called the ECS Co-Design Process in Action, introducing the updated EU-citizen science platform, which is part of the European ECS project. This event marks a pivotal milestone for us, particularly in Work Package 2. It's a significant goal that seemed so distant when we embarked on this project that it seems like it will never arrive. So being here today, watching it materialize, certainly stirs a sense of pride, along with, if I'm honest, a touch of nerves. At today's event, the main goal is to present the new services that have been integrated into the European Citizen Science platform, eu-citizen.science, which I'm sure most of you know very well, and also explain the co-design process that has been followed to develop them. The intention is not to overwhelm or bore you with so much information, but on the one hand, to fulfill this objective of transparency that we set ourselves when we started this project, and on the other hand, to let you know that this co-design process exists, that we are going to continue developing and applying it during the next 3 years of the project's life, and to invite you to participate in the next cycles. Okay, to start, in my view, it's important to acknowledge that despite this event appearing to follow like a static format, we find it infinitely more engaging and rewarding when it takes on a dynamic character and somehow adapts to suit the interest of those in attendance of you. By this, I mean to encourage each and every one of you, should you find yourselves with questions or comments at any point, to please feel at liberty to voice your thoughts via the chat function or by raising your hand and making your voice heard. Moreover, we have scheduled an open discussion session towards the end of our program, where everyone is encouraged to contribute and the community is thrust into the spotlight. Therefore, as I have said, please feel empowered to take ownership of this event and help shape its direction. To reiterate, we see this not merely as a richly structured program. Ultimately, our goal is to ensure that this event is as relevant and engaging as possible for all of you. So whether it is through the chat, a raised hand, or your voice in the open discussion, I urge you to take the chance to influence the event's flows, make it your own and make it ours. So I'm going to start with a very quick review of today's agenda. It's important to keep in mind that this event has two well-differentiated parts. The first one is this conference or talk format, where I will try not to bore you. And the second one is a more practical and dynamic format, to which I invite you to stay, because no prior knowledge is needed. And I'm sure that my colleague Fran will keep you well informed and entertained. And for this first part, we will start by introducing the ECS project. Then we will focus exclusively on the ECS Co-Design Process, highlighting the methodology employed and the results of the initial cycle. Later, we will move to the core of today's event, the presentation of the newly developed services, where we will describe the new functionalities. And finally, we will open a space for open discussion or open talk to answer questions, address comments, suggestions about the next cycle, and in general, take advantage of today's attendance to discuss any aspect of your interest. Later, we will take a break until 1:30 p.m. to start the training session focused on the use of the platform's API and how it can be exploited with different objectives. So now, without further ado, to start with the introduction to the ECS project, nobody better than its project manager, my colleague Claudia Favot. So Claudia, over to you when you are ready.
Thank you very much, Jorge. Thank you everyone for joining, and welcome also from my side to this event. So the aim of this brief presentation is to situate this co-design process in the framework of the ECS project. So the goal of ECS is to widen and strengthen European citizen science community, and we do this mainly through capacity building and awareness raising activities. Capacity building is, for example, building infrastructure for citizen science, which we are doing with the development of the European Citizen Science Platform. And we do that with the vision of a globally connected, inclusive, and strong citizen science community for societal change in Europe. Some of the details on the ECS project and on its funding. This is an Horizon CSA, a coordination and support action, meaning that we are somewhat building bridges in the community, and as I said a moment ago, building capacity for citizen science. So this is a project that is both about or on citizen science and looking at this aspect, but we are also doing citizen science activities or organizing events such as the co-design process here. And if you can go back very quickly. Sorry, and the project answers to the topic, a capacity building and brokering network to make citizen science an integral part of the European research area. Yeah, thank you. So at a glance, this is a 4-year project. We started in August last year, and the project will continue until July 2026. That means that we are exactly 1 year in. We have a big consortium bringing together 12 partners and 9 affiliated entities from 15 countries, not only in Europe, but we also have Israel. And we are also currently setting up a network of 28 citizen science ambassadors to help us share the aims of the project, disseminate and advance citizen science in Europe. So, and this is the slide on the project, and so you have a bit of a picture of what we are doing. You see here there are many different branches in the project. We are expanding the reach of citizen science by strengthening the community, and building the platform is part of that to support this activity. We are also enhancing digital skills for fair and open science communities, not only with the training that will be provided afterwards, but we have a whole work package in the project dedicated to that. We are further developing the eu-citizen science platform through co-design. This is where the activities that Jorge will present and what we are doing today fits in. And also on the right side of the slide, we're developing the ECS Academy with retraining to increase the capacity to conduct citizen science. So if you're interested on that, there's very good work going on, and yeah, and some news to come up in the autumn, I'll say. Then we're also boosting inclusion and diversity for mainstreaming citizen science. This is a cross-cutting topic in the project, and we aim to be inclusive in all activities we do. We are also advocating for citizen science and working on policy impact. There's also a work package in the project dedicated to policy work, engaging with policymakers and organizing high-level policy events on different topics of interest relevant to citizen science. And last but not least, we are investigating the impact of citizen science on research, society, and economy. And we do that looking at what the project is doing, but also looking beyond the borders of the project, identifying pathways of impact on different kinds of impact. And on the next slide, you'll see an overview of the partners in the project that I was mentioning before. We are a lot. And then the next slide is here are all the affiliated entities in the project, and they are doing good work advancing citizen science, doing policy work and inclusiveness. And I think that's it from my side. It gives a glimpse of what we are doing, and I think sets the scene for what Jorge will tell us next. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Claudia. Okay, so the ECS Co-Design Process, or what we call the ECS Co-Design Process, is the methodology that we are using to develop new services for the EU Citizen Science Platform. as one of the main pillars of the ECS project, which Claudia has just outlined. The formulation of this methodology has been a crucial endeavor during the first year of this project, yet it is also one of the unique features of the initial cycle, since we had to construct the methodology in tandem with its application. This arrangement meant that we couldn't dedicate the entire year solely to co-design, as we would have ideally liked it. We first needed to establish a robust foundation and a structure to support the co-design activities within the ECS project. This methodology, of which I'm immensely proud, represents one of the project's deliverables, and we plan to make it public on Cordis Zenodo during the project's development phase. However, let me give you a brief overview. The ECS Co-Design Process is conceived as a continuously evolving iterative process divided into 4 annual cycles. The delineation of these cycles aligns with the platform's final updates, meaning that we could say that today marks the end of the first cycle and at the same time the beginning of the second. This cycle-based division or iterative process enable us to learn from the previous cycles, continually improving upon our strengths and addressing our weaker areas. And it also ensures a consistent flow of ideas from previous cycles for each iteration. And in other words, the services being presented today are in a semi-final state, much like the platform itself, because this arrangement implies that each cycle will include a review of the services developed in previous cycles. Hence, the co-design process remains in operation through the project's 4-year lifespan. Now, on an operational level, how do we execute each of these iterations? We begin by opening a registration process to identify individuals interested in participating in the co-design process. During registration, we explain the methodology, and each person can decide which specific parts they wish to participate in order to opt out of. Subsequently, we initiate an asynchronous process of identifying needs or potential improvements for the platform. We conduct this asynchronous process via a form, providing us an initial understanding of the community's needs, which serve as inputs for the following steps. Next, we hold 1 or more workshops for the participatory selection of services. These workshops consist of various activities depending on the volume of participants, like brainstorming, idea generation, prioritization of ideas. And the ECS Co-Design team studies the specific cases of each cycle and adapts the workshop dynamics accordingly. The output of these workshops is a selection of services to be developed as decided by the citizen science community. However, in keeping with our transparency objective, all participants are informed that this selection isn't strictly final. This list of services must gain the approval of the ECS development team, as there might be technical or resource implications that may prevent the development of some services. So once the development team has assessed and defined the final list of services to be developed, we hold co-design workshops for the selective services. In these workshops, we present a beta version of the services under development so that participants can provide their feedback on the current state of the services. They can express what changes they will make, their needs, and their user experience when interacting with the services. This stage is crucial as it provides extremely valuable feedback for the development team, while also enabling functionality testing and bug detection. We can identify compatibility issues, functionality problems, logical errors that might have been overlooked, and thus fulfilling a dual purpose, like testing and co-design at the same time. And finally, with this last output, we carry out the final development of the services. This process brings us to today, when, after confirming that the functionality is correct, we move the changes from the development server to production and present them publicly in an event like this one. I hope that this explanation gives you an idea of the criteria underlying each phase of the ECS Co-Design process. So let's move on to a shorter overview of the outcomes achieved in each phase during this first cycle. Regarding the participatory selection of new services for the platform, 2 workshops were held during this initial cycle on May 17th and 18th. As I previously mentioned, we leverage certain inputs identified during the asynchronous selection period, particularly those related to the user interface and the need for a slight shift towards a somewhat fresher and more practical visual identity or user interface. Around 20 people participate in this workshop. The moderation and preparation were carried out in collaboration with Ibercivis, ECSA, and Science for Change. The workshops were conducted in a participatory mirror-based environment, which I presume most of you are familiar with. And the exercise comprised 3 different boards. An initial board for identifying profiles and spotting potential issues with the virtual environment handling. A second board for idea generation, where we supply the initial input I mentioned earlier. And a third exercise in which we prioritized the ideas that had emerged during the workshop itself. This final stage include an initial co-design activity to truly understand what the community expected to receive should those services be selected. Furthermore, if any of these services were approved by the development team, they could begin developing in a beta phase that already incorporated the design element chosen by the community. In the following slides, I'll show you some examples of the board using during the activity. Here you can see an example of the idea generating board from the first workshop. And on this slide, you can see the board for the development of prioritized ideas, which features a pre-select and a slightly co-design project map visualization feature that we will present later. This brings us to the result of this participatory service selection activity. The slide shows a brief summary of the outputs, but if you are interested, you can also access the final report of the activity that we carried out within the project, where these outputs are thoroughly elaborated. So different identifications were made during the workshops. The ECS Co-Design process doesn't explicitly specify how many services need to be finally developed in each cycle. It depends of the hard working needed for it develops. But for this first cycle, we believed we could develop at least these 3 functionalities, which you can see here: a map for project visualization, an enhancement of the platform search tool, and a significant and deep improvement in the way the platform works with the events. Moreover, to give you an example of a service that was widely selected or that we sensed the community had a particular interest in, yet we currently lack the necessary resources to implement, is a section on funding opportunities. However, providing this kind of service, ensuring its proper functionality in an automated manner without requiring human resources, seemed unfeasible to us. So that was the reason why the development team could not realize it. This is what we told the community in the final report of the activity, but nevertheless, the development team are already looking into possible ways of approaching it in order to identify the possibility of realizing it or not in the future. Regarding the co-design workshop for the selected services or functionalities, here is a summary of the most relevant data. In this first cycle, a co-design workshop was conducted on July 4th. It was a workshop in which each of the 3 selected services was addressed in an iterative fashion, that is to say, the same methodology or structure was applied for each service presented. Through the workshop, participants had access to the development platform, allowing them to interact in real time with the beta phase services. This provides them with an authentic sense of the service's current state, and it also facilitated the testing exercise that I mentioned earlier. The methodology for each service was structured around 3 main boards: an initial board to receive feedback on the state of the beta services. Participants will share their views on design, functionality, user experience, potential bug detection, and so forth. A second board was used for brainstorming activities so that we could identify new associated functionalities, fresh ideas to add to the services at that point, and generally any contribution the participant wished to make. And a third board was filled out at the end of the session, where an exercise in prioritizing ideas and conclusions was conducted to determine which of all the thoughts or comments that had arisen during the workshop were most relevant to consider in the final development of the services. In the following slides, you can see some examples of the boards that were completed during the workshops, including the feedback board and an example of the conclusion board. So, as an output from these workshops, we gleaned diverse results. For a start, there was a sense that the community widely accepted the current state of the beta services. Also, there were valuable contributions for improvement, such as adding certain filters in the event section, what kind of user experience they wanted to have with the map when clicking on any of the projects, and this kind of contributions. And fortunately, the development team was able to implement, I could say, almost all the community suggestions. And we continue to take some considerations into account for future updates in the near future. Additionally, as part of the bug detection and testing exercise, we identify some bugs, like issues with the map marker loading, which led us to rethink the entire logic of the map for loading markers to do it asynchronously. There were detected errors not only in the beta services, but also in the functionality that the official platform, I mean the production server, has at that point. I remember that the official platform had at that time, for searching platforms and users, it wasn't working correctly. As I mentioned, we delved into the manner of executing the events model, which we will now present. I believe this has been a good summary of how the ECS Co-Design process works. I would like to add, before we continue with the presentation of the new services, that we have high hopes for the upcoming cycles. As I have explained, this first year we conducted an exceptionally short cycle, as we had to define the process methodology from the different teams and general start the process itself. What it's hard, but we approach this second cycle not only with enthusiasm, but also with extensive experience localized events where we can conduct co-design workshops. And therefore, we believe that the EU-citizen science platform will be able to undergo a profound transformation focused on its update, with which we aim to elevate it to the level of top-tier digital services. So we finally come to the core element of this event. I suspect that many of you have already navigated our platform and tinkered a bit with these new services. We believe these services are largely self-explanatory, which I think is great news, because in the digital age, a well-designed user experience and user interface should require minimal guidance. Nonetheless, I think this is a great opportunity to delve not just into how this service function, which, as I said, I think this is like obvious, but also into why certain decisions were made and how we might approach their future development to continue refining them. So, as you will see, if you wish to explore the platform, I elaborate on these points. Maybe some of my colleagues could share with you the link to the platform. I know you know, but so that you only have to make a click in the chat. We have added a project visualization map to the platform homepage. This interactive map allows users to navigate, to zoom, click on projects, and so forth. Each project appearing on the map offers a direct link to its respective project page. As requested in the co-design workshop, the map maintains, how to explain it? The map maintains its current state when a user clicks on a project. So if you return to the map from the project page, it will be exactly as you left it, allowing you to pick up where you left off. Moreover, as you can see, the map allows for marker clustering, making it easier to visualize numerous markers and adding a dynamic element essential for a gratifying user experience. Today's users aren't content with static elements. They want their interactions to have tangible effects in the user experience. And regarding limitation or areas for improvement, as probably some of you could see, the map does not display all the platform's projects. As you can see, each project requires an associated location to add the marker in the map, which not all projects currently have, because this is not a requirement for the project model. When a user creates a project in the platform, they don't have to say in which location this project belongs. So at the moment, projects are shown in the location associated with their main organization. What's the meaning of this? Only those projects associated with a main organizations are visible on the map. We are now, or we aim to study how to improve project models to be able to display all platforms projects regardless of their connection with a main organizations. But this may seem like something easy to make, but this isn't a simple task, nor something the development team could address without a deep or profound reflective exercise, which I think we are likely to undertake in subsequent co-design cycles. Because some of the key questions are, how do we represent a project with international impact? Where should we position its marker on the map? These are the kind of ideas we can continue discussing and developing in future co-design cycles. as I say, as developer, this is not a trivial question. So please, if any of you have ideas on how to solve or improve this kind of troubles we found it, don't hesitate to share them either now in the chat or during the open discussion we will have later, because probably this is one of the keys to be able to improve the map functionality. As I say, feel free to interact with the map, to interact with the platform while I'm talking about the services. So the next functionality we are presenting is an improvement to the search tool. This improvement has been taken in two abstractal ways. One is purely technical, dealing with the unseen aspects of how that database carries out searches and display results, although extremely relevant for the functionality and related with the changes in the code that we made. It may not be the most pertinent topic for today's event. So in summary, the search engine now performs keyword searches across all platform content, allowing a single search to yield results from each of the platform section, like project, resources, training, organizations. As you can see in the slide, if you make a search with the keyword science, before in the old platform, you only be able to see the results for the sections that you have. I mean, if you were making a search in the project sections, you only receive the results for the number of projects that applies for this keyword. But right now you could make this kind of whole search or across all platform content. And the other aspect is a significant overhaul of the user interface and user experience when interacting with the search tool. I think this is possibly one of the key elements in the platform's overall interface, as the search tool appears on various pages and is one of the elements with which users interact most. Probably the element with most related with the interaction of the users. So we have changed the order in which results are displayed to align more closely with the Google style presentation, which users are typically accustomed to. We have adjusted colors to better match the platform's general branding. And importantly, super important, we have improved the tool for searching platforms and users. In addition to fixing the bugs we previously detected and mentioned, users can now apply filters to platform and user searches, enhancing the user experience and standardizing or made more homogeneous with the search tools functionality across sections. And lastly, we are presenting the super deep enhancement of the platform's event sections. I don't know if you remember how it was displayed previously, but the event model was pretty basic, allowing only for the association of details such as title, description, URL, date, and the hour of the event. And then some a string of characters for the place, but there's not like a strong format of the location of the event. Moreover, the event section page used to display an endless list of events. So in other words, all events were displayed one after another, resulting in an increasingly long page showing post events that perhaps were no longer much relevance. Therefore, we have tackled this functionality with two main objectives: to enhance user interaction capabilities when identifying events of interest, and to clearly improve the user interface with the goal of modernizing the platform. On one hand, to make like a summary of the things we have added, the events section now displays pagination, allowing you to navigate past events without having to display them all on a single page. You will also see that we have added a search tool with filters, aligning the user experience with the improved search tool we present earlier. And most importantly, probably the most important thing, or the most deep change in this kind of new functionality, we have thoroughly revised the event model, so that now the event creator on the platform can specify whether the event is face-to-face or online, identify the exact location of the event with a strong format that allow us to make this kind of searches in the event and to display in a map later, and associate projects or organizations with the event. I think this greatly improves event identifications for the users, improves event, a better event identification for the user, as they can conduct filter searches. They can use this kind of new features of the events to make their searches. Furthermore, this is some of the things that I want to share with you, more related with my developer mind, but please let me drink some water. As you can see, right now we have empty these new models, because I mean, this new model only applies in the new events that we'll create from now so on, not for the past events. So right now, the filtering search don't have like many sense, but we have experimented with the capability to apply concatenated filters in the search, and we have been pleased with the results. Thus, in subsequent co-design cycles, one topic we will discuss with the community is the possibility of adding this filtering system approach to the platform's general search engine. If you take a look and you look for the difference between this filters approach and the filters approach that use the general search engine, probably you will see that the general search engine only offers you the possibility to apply one filter for each one of the sessions. I mean, you could not apply two organizations for a filtering search in the user sections, for one example. But right now, in the filtering search, you could apply concatenated filters, so you could see things like events related with, I don't know, Ibercivis and European Citizen Science Associations and ECSA at the same time. I say Ibercivis and ECSA because right now is the only organization associated to an event, but this is the kind of potential thing that we could do. So please feel free to explore these features. If you wish, you could create an event to see the new event creation form. Please, I think this is the moment to ask any questions and so forth, because I think it's time to open the floor for general discussion and comments. As I mentioned before, feel free to raise your hand, write in the chat, unmute yourselves, whichever you're more comfortable with. So once we've addressed all the points you wish to raise, we will take a break before beginning the training sessions at 1:30 p.m. So please, this is the moment to make your comments, your questions, whatever you want to say. Please interact with the features. I mean, don't be afraid to break anything. If you want to create an event, we could erase later. You could eliminate later, so you can make this kind of test. I think today is the day to make the test, to make the comments. Anything you add or you tell to us, I promise we will take into account for the next cycles. So I unmute myself from.
Okay, maybe I have a question.
Please.
Without getting too technical, to state it simply, why don't you use tags and in the database many-to-many relationships to identify each event?
Yeah, this is one of the things we have to add, but right now the thing why we don't do this right now is because right now we are on a discussion of how kind of a standard used for the tax selection. I mean, we are now using that is called PPSR2 database standard. I don't know if you are familiar with. I think we could share it in the chat. Maybe Claudia, if you could share the link to the PPSR2 code. Right now we are using this standard as we allow us to communicate with different platforms that are already using the same standard. But at the same time, we are having this kind of, I don't know how to say it, bad user experience, because this standard contains an endless tags and endless elements for tags, for acknowledged areas. So we are now trying to make, I don't know, probably our own standard, something like be more friendly with the user, user-friendly. But yes, of course, this is one of the things that we are going to develop probably in the near future. I mean, probably we are not wait to the next cycle, to the next year to apply this kind of filtering by tags, but we have first to decide what kind of standard data to use, and probably we will apply this kind of standards for all the sections. I mean, not only for the events, but once we decide what kind of standard use, probably we will apply also for projects, also for users, because at the same time we're having like a bad experience if we let the user to write.
Oops, we lost you.
I think while we wait for Jorge, yeah, Jorge, you were away for a moment.
Oh, sorry.
So the last was the bad experience if we let users write in the keywords, so the list becomes very long.
Oh. Could you hear me right now? Okay, sorry. Yeah, a problem with my connection.
So do you have access to the full database, or are you communicating through APIs? Can you define new models?
Yeah, we define our own models, but in this kind of things that topic related or tax related, we are using the PPSR2 code.
Okay, but to me, like everything you showed to us, every issue that you mentioned to me sounds like a model definition related problems.
Yes, for sure.
Somehow initially has someone thought enough for the foreseeable future. So there's some model that does not fit the new ideas. That's the whole issue. Did I get it right?
Yeah, probably some of the issues are like, I don't know how to say, more philosophical, because are related to how to display some information to the user. I mean, for example, the issue with the map visualization of some projects are more related of the way to display the information to the user in a map. Because I mean, in a static page, it's easy to say or to show if a project has like a global geographical extent or national or local or whatever. But in the map, we have this kind of decisions to make. And in order to make the develop of the services as much participatory as we can, we don't have to, or we don't want to make some kind of decision like very strong. But as I say, because we have this kind of big co-design process through 4 years, we want to make these issues solved at the end of the project.
Okay.
Thank you for your question, Tari.
Welcome.
Yeah, I'm reading some of the chat things. We are very related with the other platforms user experience. We have our research in the mixed platforms, and right now we are trying to make, and probably this is one of the things that we carried out in the second cycle of the co-design process, is how to implement some kind of impact assessment of projects in the platform. Probably not as deep as the way that Mix do, because Mix has like a super deep impact assessment thing related to projects, but we want to make something that allows the users to have an overview of the impact assessment of the projects and make some kind of research and issue research in what topics are more related with I'm gonna say better impact assessment, or in what countries are having like a big impact assessment or something like that. So yeah, we use Mix a lot to have some kind of reference or how to implement some kind of services, for sure. Okay, so I want to take the opportunity also to let you know that there are a working group of ECSA related to the platform, where we discuss some of these things. I mean, Otari, maybe because your developer profile, maybe you will be interested in participate. I don't know if Claudia or Fran wants to say something related, and what's the way to participate in the working group, or the kind of standards that we use.
Yeah, sure. The working group is open for everyone that wants to join, be it next member or not, even if we're always happy about having new members of ECSA. And the working group is thought of to be the central space where we have discussions with others about the development of the EU-Citizen Science platform. Also, there are some other citizen science national or regional platforms that are interested in connecting to EU-Citizen Science in some way. So that's also the place to reach out to have these conversations.
Okay, Victoria, I'm reading your question, but I'm not sure if I'm understanding well. So maybe
Can you hear me?
yeah.
Yeah. Basically, what I'm interested in, because at the moment most of the citizen science project discovery platforms, they only focus on project discovery for participants. So it's exposing information about what project is about, how to join, where it is located, but there is no data discovery capabilities. But is this considered at all for the platform, or is it outside of the scope? So data visualization, if projects start collecting data, can they share it through the platform, or it's not considered part of the core functionality?
I mean, this kind of project data visualization would be like a super functionality. I mean, super useful, but it implies a lot of problems related to data owner, with privacy, with ethics. So try to approach in this way, it's like very complicated. Probably the thing that we could do in that sense is try the projects has an API where we could make a call to present data visualization. But this is like a extremely hard way to approach because it needs like a super standard in data. This implies that all the projects use like the same or at least some fields in their data sets that will be standardized, at least in the API. So I mean, it's like a great functionality, but it's not as easy as it could appear. Because, as I say, the owner of the data set is the project. We don't have the permission to own, and let me say, we don't want to have the responsibility to have personal data or something like that. So it implies like ethical issues that are
thinking along the lines of open data, so something similar to GBIF. So they collect a lot of citizen science data that's exposed straight away. OpenStreetMap is just making citizen science data more visible, because at the moment there are platforms that collect information about the projects, but then to access that data in a more standardized way becomes a big problem.
Yes, I don't know if Frank.
May say something that I mean directly in the platform, no, but inside the ECS project we have what is called the Data Academy that we are starting now, but we need to release new the first version. I don't remember, but in the middle of the project or more or less. So in this Data Academy we are going to collect data. So we are going to collect to make a repository of citizen science data that you can use for the Data Academy. So maybe we can think on ways to join this Data Academy with the platform, but yes, this is something that we need to think in the next year and see in which way. As Jorge said, there is a problem programming data in citizen science, but because you know that there are data from different formats, metadata, and so on, and sometimes it's very complicated to mix data from other data from other repositories. But somehow I think that it's a good idea to have like a repository of citizen science data have the links to the data that are in Synod or other platforms. Yeah, but not to store, but to have the links to citizen science data. I think that's an idea for sure.
And I also have another question regarding PPSR core. What are the main challenges with it? Is it the lack of vocabularies it's like lack of flexibility of those vocabularies that are used to describe projects, describe metadata? So what was the main challenge of not basically PPSR core not fulfilling user requirements?
Yeah, in my opinion, the main problem is that in PPSR core we have the vocabulary. Sorry for describing projects. For example, we have a very large very large list of topics. For example, and this large list is not usable. I mean, it's very nice because you can describe the project very well, but it's not usable by the general public in order to find the topic and so on. So I think also that the PPSR core team is very flexible and we can propose new improvement and so on. So maybe we can propose new things to change the vocabulary a little bit. But the thing is that, for example, C starter is also using this PPSR core. So it has to be like a consensus between some different entities, some different partners. You know, the American citizen science, the Australian, and all the people that are participating in this team. So, but it's to have a consensus with all the participants in this PPSR core team.
Thank you.
Yes, Rosa, I think it's a great idea that you're saying, and maybe through the life of the ECS project, we could take the advantage to start some conversations with the European open science community to make to think in a way to solve these kind of troubles that we have when we try to approach on data sharing or data visualization. So thank you.
And adding to this, also I'm thinking of people watching the recording and not knowing what Rosa said. Rosa said maybe the discussion on data sharing visualizations can be linked to the EOS, that is the European Open Science Cloud, and or its services somehow. So this is planned already in the project. And adding to what Victoria was suggesting before, the scope of the ECS project is to build capacity and share best practice and provide skills to others so that they share their data with those that should use it. But we don't aim to provide a central infrastructure to gather all of the data. There are some points, as Victoria was saying, GB for biodiversity data, or other points where data that fits into that can be used sometimes or ideally by national statistical offices for monitoring of concrete things. I'm looking at the chat, and I think most of the questions have been addressed. We still have 10 more minutes of this section in case someone else wants to raise any questions. But it might be exciting to tell about the opportunities to take part in the next co-design cycle. So everyone continues being engaged and interested in upcoming developments.
Yeah.
For the sorry to
Please,
interrupt.
please.
For the design cycles, how do we sign up?
Yeah, we will open a registration period. Probably we will make like a new section in the platform itself, so that everyone who is interested could sign up like in a mailing address. That's the way that we are using right now, but we don't have ready this section. But probably in September we want to make this section ready. So through the platform, and of course via our social media, I mean in the same ways that you heard about this event, you will heard about the next co-design cycles. And I said, the next co-design cycle will be more open, more ambitious. Probably we will make more workshops, not only the two that I explained it before. So I'm sure that you have the opportunity to participate if you want.
I'd like to ask one more question, please.
Of course.
In fact, two more questions. If the server is containerized, and why Python?
Sorry, could you repeat, please? I don't.
So the first question is, if the server is containerized, like do you use Kubernetes or Docker or something
all right.
with the containers, and why Python? Why not I don't know, Java or C# or whatever?
Yeah, Fran, I don't know if you want to say, because you are more related. You are muted right now. But
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, we have a virtual machine for this, and this is installed using the pip environment. We install the library for Python using pip, but we are not using right now Docker or something like that. We are not using that, but we are planning to have this also. But right now we are not using Docker, but because it's very easy to install. So yeah. Why Django and why Python? Because we saw that there is a growing community in Django. Python is very easy to start programming. It's also very easy to build a community with Django, and this was other of the reason that, as you know, now we have the Brazilian community of citizen science. They are also developing in citizen science. The code they are also participating. We have contact with other communities, and I think that the first step to start to coding in Django is very easy, and this was one of the main reasons to start with Django and Python, because yeah, it's very easy to understand, it's very easy to install, and it's one of the main reasons.
Right. Thank you.
yeah, at some point, the idea of this kind of open code approach is not only developers use the code, but probably if someone has a project, a citizen science project, and they don't have skills on developing, they could use this kind of easy framework to install it and have like a standard website ready as easy as it can be.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so I don't know if we have more comments or questions, but it has been like a super fruitful session, and right now we'll take a break before beginning the training session. We will see you at 1:13, so we have like 20 minutes break, so you could drink some water or whatever you want. And yeah, of course, remind you that the next session is a very easy one. It's not prior knowledge requirement, so I invite you to stay, and we come back at 1:13. in 20 minutes.
Okay.
Okay, bye. See you.